Boom. Boom.
What's going on?
I'm Chris Nichols. Everything I say is amazing. You're gonna want to keep it all.
I love that you're this tall.
I bathe once a day at least, you know, I try.
How are you doing, Taki?
I'm doing good. Where are you guys heading up to?
We're going to stand directly behind you, and we're going to make sure that our audio bleeds right into yours.
Where are we?
Did you say Huawei?
Where are we?
Where are we? Yep. We're in Italy. I don't know exactly where we are. I don't know the GPS coordinates.
Oh, yes.
It's dark down there, so I don't know if we're allowed to go down there. There's no lights on.
Oh, probably not then.
Let's do it anyways.
Okay, I will just say I was following you.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, let us begin. Click, click, click. Hello everyone, and welcome to Italy. I am back, and I'm back in Italy, as you probably saw in the thumbnail, for this camera right here, the Leica M EV1. We all thought it's gonna be called the M11V. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, Leica flew out a few of us to come and experience this new I'm gonna keep on saying M11V because we've been saying it for months, right? The M EV1, you can see that right there, it says M EV1, and we have this, I mean, I've turboed this up, right? I have the IDS grip here, I have the square hood shutter button, and I have this Oberworth half case, the tag case with the strap. So thanks to everyone for setting this up. They basically said, look, like shoot it the way that you would shoot it. And so I've made this home. This is my 28 Summicron with the square hood. And so this kind of looks and feels, and blindfolded, it feels like any of the M11 series cameras, but the biggest difference is, of course, when you put your eye to it here, and of course what you can see is it's just smooth here. There's no window on this side, so it's not only is it smooth, but also it's like flat. So it's slightly thinner on this side. You have a similar EVF panel to the Q3, but like it did say, because this is thinner than the Q3, that the design of it is still a little bit different. It's modified, but not exactly the same as the Q3. But if you look through Q3, it's gonna look and feel very similar to that as well. But this is the new M. It's not the M11. Specifically, like I said, that they did not want that it's not just part of the M11 and the M12. They said, you know, this will evolve and change separate. So one of the things they said is when there is an M12, there's not necessarily going to be an M12V, right? Or like the EV2. Like it could either skip a generation, or there could be multiple generations within a series. So there could be an MEV2 before an M12 comes out. Now these are all just like what ifs, right? So it makes sense. This is a companion system to the M. So this is still an M, and I've interviewed Andrea Pacella,
So now we have 3 segments in our offer of the M system. We have M analog, M digital rangefinder, and M digital electronic viewfinder. So 3 different categories of product, 3 different segments, and who knows, maybe in the future there might be an MEV monochrome or an MEV whatever, D or I don't know. It's something that will evolve as a different segment in our. This because the rangefinder is going to remain as the strongest pillar of our M. So will never disappear, still there. Someone said the rangefinder is forever. And this is just a new version, a new approach to M photography.
I interviewed Andrea, I interviewed Jesko, I interviewed Micah, and I'll put in inserts throughout.
Yes, right. Why are you asking this? I even remember that we were talking about having a EVF version of the M11 quite some years before that. So when we started the development of the M11, we even already thought about integrating an EVF, but we didn't decide to launch the product from day one or soon after the M11. So we took some time to consciously think about if there's a potential in the market, if we want really to introduce a integrated EVF into the M system. So we had some further discussions on it. We talked a lot to our customers. And yeah, Christoph is right. About 3 years ago, we took the brave decision to now enrich the Leica M portfolio with an additional model.
And then the soul of the M system is not just the camera, it's again the glass and to have access to the glass. And I get that there are purists that are taken aback. And honestly, I fully get that. I'm an M girl person, whatever, for over 30 years. So analog, optical, rangefinder, that's what I am. That's what I grew up with. That's how I learned taking real images. So I get all this kind of anxiousness, and I get that they are kind of even scared of such a development. But why should they? Why should I be scared? Isn't it nice that we can open what we so much love to people that might not dare or might not be so skilled to step into this kind of little bit more complicated camera than all the other cameras on the market? So we do not sell our soul. We just broaden it a bit.
The lighting wasn't great, so I apologize to all of them for mediocre lighting. I think Gadget actually shot here, but everyone's out shooting because we still have some sun. It was pouring rain before, and so I thought I would just quickly do my first reaction talking head, because there's a lot I want to talk about. And by interviewing Andrea and Jesko and Micah, and I'm going to talk to Christoph as well, they had a lot to say about the M system, as well as Come in. I'm sorry. No. It's
but yeah, I mean, I like the M11. I like the way it operates. And now we've got this camera, which is quite different. Right when I started to like rangefinders, and you know, because it's all about the shooting experience. And now that I've been wandering around shooting this camera, the shooting experience is in some ways similar, but in some ways feels kind of more like shooting a Q or something like that in a way. I don't know. I mean, I've only had it for a few hours. I'm trying to get to grips with it here. Yeah. What makes a rangefinder charming is that it has a rangefinder. And so I wonder if maybe that charm is missing. And that's why I'm trying to get more to grips with it. Is the enjoyment still there? I feel the way I use the camera is basically the same. So, but the shooting experience is different, right? And I'm trying to get to grips with, is this a good thing or a bad thing? It's gonna be very polarizing. Yeah. Very polarizing. Maybe. Again, Leica's not trying to make this a replacement. It's not like rangefinders are dead and this is taking over. Nothing like that. This is an alternative way of using a camera that still is very similar, very kind of similar feel, has the same prestige, has the same optics, all that kind of stuff, but just has a different way of composing the image. And I like it. It's simple. It makes sense. I think a lot of people will probably gel with it.
All right, before I was so rudely interrupted by Seiji-kun of Petapixel, what was I talking about? This corner here, isn't it funny? Basically, mostly, this is an M11, but with the entire rangefinder mechanism, which is an optical-mechanical precision mechanics system here, that was removed, and that's part of the reason why it is, at least as of when we had our media brief, it's 1,000 euros cheaper for the M EV1 compared to, I think they said M11P. Basically the idea that, I think they said 130 pieces to make the rangefinder system. So
the price of this camera, it's in euro, it's around 1,000 euro lower, because it shows the difference that it takes to make a rangefinder. A rangefinder is a very complicated optomechanical device that it takes 130 pieces to be made, including glass, metal, and whatever. That includes a lot of handwork to be made and created. So taking out that and substituting with an EVF allow us to make a price that it's more correct. So for sure, an EVF, even the highest quality EVF as this one, has a price that is lower to a rangefinder.
Since that's removed, even though they're also paying for the EVF components, it's still 1,000 euros at retail cheaper. And so that's actually kind of a bonus for two reasons. One is, of course, having an EVF M will help people who has issues with focusing, either because their eyes aren't good, or they're getting older, or their hands are shakier, or they are a Q shooter and they're making that leap into M, and the idea of using a rangefinder is a little bit intimidating. So having something as familiar as an EVF, but not ruining the aesthetics, because, you know, I mean, the M camera itself is a work of art. I love just having it on the table and just being able to look at it, but as well as being able to take photos with it, right? And so having that EVF, I never used the Visoflex. I had it last year in the summer with the M11P, the 35 Apo. Leica also sent me the Visoflex, the latest one. Never used it because it just looks ugly, and it was like kind of a necessary evil if you needed it, especially when you're shooting with lenses like the 21 right here, the 21 Summilux. You have to, on an M, you have to use the optical viewfinder to get the proper angle of view, field of view that you can see, or you use the EVF, or you use live view LCD on the back, right? And which I do that with the, here's my M10R with the 21 Super Angulon, and I love this lens, but I do have to use the LCD. And you know what, I would rather use an LCD for proper framing, as well as, you know, seeing the proper field of view, and then I use a rangefinder here to focus, or just hyperfocal distance, f8. You know, I love deep depth of field, and so I love shooting with this here like this. But having this as an EVF, I mean, you know, two different generation of cameras, an M11 generation, so this is not an M11 according to Leica, M11 generation camera, and this is an M10 generation. But you know, all the M's, I even say, even going back to the film, so my M7, when I shoot with an M7, shoot with the same lens, and then I go to a digital M, the overall feeling, the thickness of the body, the way that you're manually focusing this way, I'm left eye dominant, so I can't do that, you know, this kind of a style of shooting. And one thing I never thought about is, in the presentation, Andrea, Jesko, as well as Micah talked about, like, this is a friendlier way of shooting because you can maintain eye contact. It's not just about your peripheral, right? Because you can peripherally view off the LCD and see this, but when you shoot this way and you do a portrait of someone, they still see, you can still see them and they could see you. You're not hidden behind a camera, right? So there's a humanness, a friendliness when you are shooting this way. It's just I'm left eye dominant, so I'm typically shooting this way. But once I focus, I typically kind of poke over the top, and then I maintain eye contact anyways. And so I'm hyper aware of maintaining eye contact with my subjects when I shoot them. So I focus and then I peek over, right? Instead of doing this way. But I never thought about that, is that friendliness. But having this with an EVF allows people to get into M that are less, that they'll be less intimidated without having to use a rangefinder system or older one, but also the price point. It drops the price point between a Q3 and M11, and then in the middle you have something like this. And so I think this is a good idea. And it's funny, I was just, you know, Chris and I were talking, saying how Leica always gets criticism for, like, oh, why would you make a digital camera without an LCD screen? That's crazy. And nobody does that, right? And I'm just trying to think. No, nobody does that. Monochrome, I think Pentax tried it, but you know, a black and white only digital camera, why would you do that? Why don't you just convert JPEG or whatever inside the camera, black and white? But Leica does it and they sell well and people like those limits. Now that they put an EVF in here, it's kind of what the majority expects. And now internally, the people that would complain aren't outside people who never really liked Leica or never understood why people like shooting with these cameras, but it's people who have accepted the M system. We love shooting M. We're probably the ones that complain that this has an EVF. But for me, I'm happy. I'm happy that I have a choice. I'm happy that I have the choice of an M11, an M11P, more professional model, some upgrades. I'm happy there's an M11 monochrome for those that just want to shoot black and white. I'm happy that there's an M11D, those that don't want an LCD screen. And I'm happy that there's an M, not an M11, but an M EV1 for those that want an EVF. Like, why do I care? The fact that there's 5 versions of this generation that you can choose from, that's fantastic. That's good for everyone, right? So if the EVF doesn't attract you, it's not something you think you need, you love the actual act of the rangefinder, you enjoy the journey, not just the destination, so you enjoy doing that, then I think that's great. Like, one advantage that I like of having a mechanical rangefinder is that even when the camera is turned off, obviously the focus still works. So I can pre-focus even with it off. And then when I'm ready to shoot and I'm using somewhat hyperfocal, so let's just say I'm shooting at f5.6 or something. So I know from here, it's like, okay, the person is this many feet away. Even with it off, I can at least pre-focus it. And then when I'm ready to shoot, I could just turn it on, click, and then put it down, and I know it's gonna work. So that's one advantage of having this optical rangefinder system. Also, when it gets darker, you can see what your eye pretty much sees, right? It's a little bit darker in here versus without using the optical rangefinder, but as the light levels drop, and EVF has to gain up, and so now you have this gain, right? And so being able to just kind of scope with this camera on or off, but as well as when it gets darker, you could pretty much see what your eye sees. There's an advantage to using something like this. And remember, you're just using rangefinder focusing, right? So that's a great advantage of having this. But again, why can't I have this and this? I think that's the point. And so, as Chris mentioned, we've only had this for a couple hours, and I spent most of my time interviewing, but I'll save maybe a lot of that for more of a long-term review. I don't know if I'm allowed to keep this longer, most likely not. If I do, I'll take it with me to Fuzhou and continue testing it, but I'm not gonna run out right now and try to get bangers, because I helped launch the M11 back in 2022 January, and I got it in December of 2021. So I have 5 years of images that I've shot, so I know what this is capable of. It's more about the user experience, how it, like, how do I feel about the EVF? And in general, it's like, well, I'm cool with it because I shoot with my SL2 all the time with my M mount lenses, because it's great. Like with this 21, it's great to actually see the entire field of view when I'm doing critical framing, but as well, the helicoid is nice on the SL2. So will I stop putting M mount lenses on an SL? No, because there's other features on an SL that I get, including video, including some more high performance features that I get, deep grip, and more kind of eye relief. See how this EVF kind of, the eye cup slips back a little bit, so it's a different way of shooting. And for rangefinder shooters, again, half your face is kind of out like this, right? And so that's another advantage for some. It's not an advantage for me because I am left eye dominant, so that makes no difference to me. But shooting this way is fantastic as well. So I'm gonna keep on shooting with my M10R. I'm gonna continue shooting with my SL2, but this is just another tool in my toolbox, is having an EVF M body. I think this is going to do really well. I know some of my friends who stopped shooting with M because they say they struggled with rangefinder focusing, so they save money, they get the EVF in here anyways. It's still as light, as compact. It's actually lighter because the rangefinder mechanism is actually heavier. I think they said 82 grams. This is even lighter. So the M11 with the black top panel that was aluminum was already lighter than the M10 generation with the bottom plate and brass top. But now with the lack of an optical rangefinder mechanism in here, it's even lighter. So again, if you want something light in an M form factor, part of the M family, just not part of the M11 generational series, this is a great option. And so check out all my other colleagues, all the other videos.
There's all, this too, there's all these things that when you use a rangefinder, you keep it at infinity. And when I'm going up to my eye, it's like I kind of know the neighborhood it's going to be in, so I'm fast at it. I also found if I go for a couple months without shooting a rangefinder, I'm really rusty when I come back. I mean, this is probably like driving a stick. But I love that they made it clear. And they've had focus aids before, the old Visoflex, the goggles that went on the early cameras. So this in a way, you could sort of look at it as a fancier visual aid that comes in another body. And it's fine. If somebody wants to come into the M system and this is it, and they just don't want to learn rangefinder, and that they still have access to incredible lens lineup, you get almost all the experience, not all of it, the control stuff we're talking about. So it's just a different way of looking at it, I guess. I don't think it's going to replace anything, and they were very clear in here today that they are committed. It's, the M is, that's what defines the M.
Take, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Yourself?
Good.
What do you think about the new M11V, the new M EV1? What do you think?
I think it's great, man. At the beginning, you think it's kind of counterintuitive to what you've been doing for a long time, but then as soon as you pick it up, focus for the first time, you're like, wow, this is so easy to use and opens a huge amount of possibilities to focal lengths, historical lenses, and things that you have kind of difficulty with the rangefinder. With this one, it's like easy.
The main lenses that kind of make sense in the Leica M system for a rangefinder are like the 28, the 35, and the 50. Those are like the main frame lines that you get. The other ones are secondary. So oftentimes I think that I'll still use the M11 for like the 28, a 35. And then I think that lenses are a little bit longer, like the 50, and they have a shallower depth of field. I find that the shallower depth of field is, the easier it is to actually get focus on like the EV1F. Or the EV1, so many different things. And then same thing with like, a 21 and some other lenses. Like I have like a 75 that I love to use, but it's just more difficult with the rangefinder, so it would be 1,000 times easier on the EV1.
So I use the M11 a lot on personal fashion shoots because it's so fun, but I have to use the Visoflex. I use prescription glasses, so 28 millimeters is difficult, and everything above 50, obviously, is harder to see in that rangefinder. So the Visoflex was my go-to, and now with this, I don't need the Visoflex anymore. And so this could be my go-to for fashion shoots. And then I'm still keeping my M11 because I have the glossy black, so it's brass and dense, and it's the traditional rangefinder, workflow, and that challenge still inspires me, and it keeps me motivated, and it keeps photography fun. I don't like when cameras do everything for me. Unless I'm on a job, then obviously that's a different story. But I use these tools for keeping me inspired.
At first glance, you might think it doesn't make sense. Like, what are you doing putting an EVF on a rangefinder? Is it still a rangefinder after that? I think in some ways it kind of is. I think when you think of the M, perhaps you think of the M mount first. And now you got 3 flavors to experience the M mount. You can use analog M and use those M mount lenses from 1954 all the way through now. You can get a digital M with a rangefinder and experience M mount lenses. And now you have like an electronic viewfinder to use the M mount.
A lot of YouTubers here, content creators, it's probably the first time at a Leica event, so check out their videos, support them, and see what they have to say. But Taka's happy. I think this is a fantastic camera. The M EV1, the M EV1, not the M11V. I think colloquially people will just call it an M11V anyways, but I think Leica wants to say M EV1. So M EV1, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon, and happy shooting. Click, click, click.